Click the bell icon to get latest videos from Ekeeda.
Hello friends, today we will talk about authorization in SQL. How to authorize a user to perform some of the operations on some relations or in an SQL query. We will discuss about that how to grant some operations, how to revoke some privileges, and how to use it on a basis of an authorization graph or in a cascading granting or revoking an operation. Authorization means that we are actually authorizing some of the user to some of the operations on a relation. Say there are some users who can only see the relation, cannot update it. Some can update it but cannot delete it. And some can only delete it but cannot just update it. So if all are given, then the creator is the privileged one. So the creator or an object is the privileged one of having all the authorization of the relation. So whenever we are performing an operation on a relation, we need to have a authorization. By default, we have given the SQL query the current user all the authorization as a creator of the object or the relation. Now we will see what are the authorizations, that are authorizations to read, authorizations to update, authorization to delete. So there are some SQL terms to do that are select, update, delete for the authorization purpose. Now we will see that how can we grant these privileges to the users. So the basic structure of granting a list or a set of privileges is like that. So first we need to put the keyword grant, then the privilege list or a single privilege, then on the relation or the view names on which we are granting the privilege to the user or users to which we are granting the privilege. So the first is to read privilege. The read privilege is granted in SQL by the select statement. So we can write like see here we can see that we are providing or granting the select privilege to the Amit and Paul user on the relation student. So Amit and Paul user can always granted the read select on the student. So they can read and fetch information from the student relation based on any predicates or just all the records in the relation. So this is the basic privilege that we have provided is the select privilege. Next is the insert privilege. Insert privilege is given to the user to recognize him or her as to insert some values in the existing relation or view, and that can be given as. So here Amit and Paul has given a select privilege on student, but only Amit can insert privilege on the student, so that he can only insert values to the existing records on relation student. The next is the update privilege. The update privilege provides us two types, that we can update all the attributes on a relation or we can update a particular attribute on a relation. Say a clerk who is seeing the relation instructor can only change the department of the instructor, not the salary or ID of the instructor. So we can give the update privilege to only the attribute department of the instructor relation to the clerk. So here we are granting privilege, that is update privilege department attribute on the instructor relation to any clerk. The next is the delete privilege. So the delete privilege is of the highest privilege, as we can delete from a database or loss of a database. So the delete privilege is always given to the admin or the user who has created the database. So delete privilege here is given to the student relation to the admin of the department. Now we can always revoke the privilege if that is found incorrect. So the revoking of privilege goes with just the grant keyword will be changed with revoke here. So the revoke will privilege list on the relation to the user. So I am revoking a particular privilege from the user. So it will look like, say, one thing we need to keep in mind while revoking a privilege, that we cannot revoke a privilege that is not granted to a user. Say I am writing here that revoke select on student from, say, Selena. So the Selena is not granted select on student, so we cannot revoke that. So we must use the name that is granted on that particular privilege on a relation to revoke it from him or her. So here we are revoking the select privilege on student from the username Paul. So the to is here changed to from. Now there is always a user to use this is public. Public refers to all the current and future users of a system or administrator. So if I grant the username to public, that means we are granting that particular privilege to all the public users of that system. So if the admin is changed to public, then we can actually declaring the grant delete to public. So it is to be used very carefully and handled with care. The next type we will discuss is the role. Say in university, each of the department has got a different role. Say the admin is considered to be the role as to function all the administrative tasks as well as the registration tasks. The department HOD has a role to perform the functions of all the academics record or all the misbehavior chances record of the students. This way we can divide the role in the departments or the facilities in an enterprise. Like this in SQL, we can also divide the role in some users. Say a group of students is given a role to perform a task. So first we need to mention the role to the group of students, and then we can select the role to grant some privileges. Say for example, the department wise the HOD has given a role and the users or the instructors has given another role. So the HODs are marked with a role and the usernames, and then the HOD is given some privileges to perform or some actions to perform, say or a delete, update and this. So we will see an example that how to perform and create role. See, I have created a role instructor, and the role instructor can grant privilege on behalf of the users. So here I am granting the update privilege on the department attribute of department relation to the instructor role. So the instructor role, whoever is having, can update the department attribute of the department relation. Now role has a more significant way because role can be given or transfer their roles to another one, and even they can pass it on to the user. So the grant can be directly given to a role, or they can be given to a role then to a user, or the role can be transferred from one user to another user. We will see it with the example. Now here we can see that we are first creating a role dean, and we have created already a role instructor. Now I have granting the role Dean to Amit. That means I am considering Amit as a Dean of my department. Now next one, I am granting the instructor to Dean. That means I am considering that an instructor can perform the role of a Dean. Now Amit is indirectly given the role of an instructor because he is already a Dean. So in this way, the role can directly be given a privilege or it can be given a privilege that has to be given another role. That Amit is performed to instructor which has been given an update privilege and indirectly which can be used by Amit. So in this way we can grant roles or to another roles and to the users of that roles. Now, if you remember the part from the view, we can also create authorization in views too. Like we have created a view and we know that the modification of view is possible in some circumstances. So we can perform the views authorization too. Like we have created a view and the view can be done only for a special purpose, not for all the purposes. Say for example, we are creating a view. So now I am creating a geology instructor view, which is a part of the instructor with the department named geology. Now anyone with the geology department can have a select privilege on that view geo instructor, and that can be granted just like the normal relation. Say Paul being a geo instructor so that he can update the salary of the geo instructor as an admin. So in this way we can create a view and give that view authorization to a user. But we have to be very careful because we cannot update or modify the view just as a normal relation, because in materialized view 2 we have to store it and make it an updated value. So if one tries to update a view and has not got that role or power or privilege, then it will be a problem to control the view. So view are meant to be only virtual concept, and that the view authorization need to be handled very carefully. Say for an example, this geo instructor Paul has given the delete instructor. So the delete privilege is given on this geo instructor so that the Paul can delete the actual tuples from the relation. So immediately we are transferring the privilege to Paul to the relation instructor via the view geoINS. So this geoINS view is given the exact same privileges given to the instructor relation. That is why view authorization becomes extremely important when given to a user other than the creator of the view. Next, we will discuss about authorization on schemas. While we are defining a schema, the creator is the only one who deserves and provides all the rights to define and modify the schema again. Now, if I want to pass on the references or the foreign key references to another creator to have some of the modification on my relation, then I must authorize him on my schema. So authorizing schema means that I am giving the user the permission other than the creator of the relation that you can use some of the attributes or all of the attributes of my relation as a reference to your relation. The result of this, if there is any changes to the relation of the referenced relation and that of the referring relation, so the referring relation will suffer from giving the unauthorized privilege to the reference relation. So we need to handle again the authorization to schema very carefully. Now how to give authorization to schema we will see now. Now here I am granting the referential integrity on a particular attribute department name of the department relation to Mariano. I am hereby declaring that Mariano is a user who can create his own relation referring to the relation department on the department name attribute. So, the Mariano has the privilege of updating and creating and granting all the privileges on his relation as well as the relation of the department through the attribute department name. So the main problem is if Mariano referenced relation, say suppose department 1 has created and been updated on some particular predicate, then only the department name of the department relation will get changed according to this. So it need to be handled very carefully that what privileges we will grant to Mariano that we are having the department name to department. Now, some users are allowed to pass the privilege to other users. Say for the admin. Admins is always allowed to pass all the privileges or some of the privileges to another user. So whenever we can allow a user to pass his privileges, only the privileges that he is granted, we can allow him with the grant option clause. And we will see how to do that. Now when I am executing this query, we are actually granting select privilege on the relation department to Amit with the grant option. That means we are allowing Amit to pass on the select privilege on the department relation to another user. In this way, privileges can be passed. But how the passing of privilege can be handled is being done with an authorization graph. We will see an example to see what the problem could arise in a passing of privilege. Say there is a database administrator who has given some privileges to the users U1, U2 and U3. Now the U1 has passed his privilege to U4 as well as to U5. And U2 has also passed his privilege to U5. Now, if U1 has the select privilege and U2 has the grant privilege on some relation or to different relations, then all the granting of privileges will be controlled by U5 or can be handled by U5. On the other hand, U4 will have only the privilege that U1 has. So in this way, we can manage the privilege translation from one user to another user through the authorization graph. And we can say that a user UI has the privilege on some relation if and only if there is an authorization graph which can denote UI from the root to that the user. So here U4, U5 is in the authorization graph and has a path that is DBA to U1 to U4, DBA to U1 to U5 and DBA to U2 to U5. So there exists the granting relation privileges on U4 and U5. Say there exists a user 6 here. He cannot get any of the privileges because there is no immediate path that moves from the root to the user. So in this way, we can use the authorization graph to detect there is an error or not. Now we will change this graph a little bit to see that what problem could arise while passing the privileges. Say that the UBA has given U1 some privilege and U1 has given to U4. Now U4 give that privilege back to U1. So now U1 has the privilege from DBA and also from U4. Now the revoking of privileges will hamper this passing of privilege very much. Say suppose the database administrator has revoked that particular privilege from U1, but U1 can still retain that privilege on the relation through U4. This type of problem can arise if there are permitted to the cascading delete or cascading update operation privileges. So we can revoke it with the Here the keyword restrict suggests that the cascading deletion or updation is not possible, or the select cascading deletion on the revoking grant is not possible because of this restrict keyword. We can replace the restrict keyword with the cascade keyword too. So both the cascade and the restrict revokes the granting of the privilege on some relation from some user so that he cannot get from any use of that privilege that has been given or passed to the user. So now that U4 gets his privilege from the U1, so U1 cannot retain any privilege from U4 anymore if the DBA or the root has revoked the privilege from that particular user. Now we can also revoke the grant option, that the permission to pass on the privileges, by revoking the grant option. We can do it by So by executing this query, we are telling that revoking the grant option for the select privilege on department relation from Amit, that Amit cannot pass any privileges anymore to any other user on the department relation. And other than that, the last one is we can grant also by the current role. Current role is the role of the current user, and by using the keyword So if we are granted by current role, that we are meaning that the current user is having all the privileges by the current role granting. So that is all for authorization in SQL. Thank you for watching this video. Stay tuned with Ekeeda and subscribe to Ekeeda.